Are you a weenie? Are you a horror buff, perhaps? No matter who you are, I think this list will have a game for you. Hi, I'm Shiv, and I'm coming at you today as a basic Sanrio girly to share with you my favorite cozy games for Halloween. Now, there is truly a game for anyone on this list. I don't care what genres you prefer, what your spook tolerance is, or what platforms you own. Regardless, there will be at least one game on this list for you, I am certain. And for my Switch friends, fear not, almost every single game on this list is available on Nintendo Switch. All of these games are ones that I've personally played and loved. Some of them are more recent from over the past year, and some of them are decade-old classics. So, I am sitting here in front of you all today to present a case to you for each of these games to tell you why I love them so much and why I think you should play them. And don't worry, this is all going to be spoiler free. Now, you might have noticed that I said this is going to be a tier list. And that's because I wanted to be able to organize these from not scary at all to kind of sort of scary. Just a little disclaimer, keep in mind everyone's sense of horror is different, everyone's sense of cozy is different. I think the games that are scary for me might be too scary for some people to be considered cozy, or might not be scary at all. So your mileage may vary. I'm not the cozy police. I'm not the spooky police. I'm not police. I am just here to talk to you about the Halloween coded games that I love. Let me introduce you to the tiers of my spooky kingdom. Please remember, this is going to be a scale from top to bottom, not of the games I least like to most like playing. No, no, no. All of the games on today's list are games that I love and would happily recommend, but we're going to go from bottom to top, from not scary at all to kind of scary. That said, at the end, I will be going through each individual tier and telling you which game is my favorite for that tier. Also, just for fun, I'm going to be saving my top overall recommendation for last in the video. Of course, you can skip ahead if you want to, but I think there's a lot of awesome games on the way to that final one, and I don't think you'll be disappointed. Okay, so going tier by tier, we have here at the bottom, Weenie Hut Juniors, You Are Safe Here. And at the very top, scary games, as in you might have trouble going to the bathroom by yourself afterwards type of games. More specifically, at the very, very bottom, we have cute and whimsical. So because I'm a huge Buffy fan, I'm going to be using Buffy characters to describe each category. If you're not a Buffy fan, don't even worry about it. But I would say that this category is best represented by Willow, specifically season 1 Willow. Just very cute, very fun, very whimsical. We're wearing quirky sweaters. We're having a good time. We are not frightened in the slightest, actually. The next tier up is Pumpkin Spice or Pumpkin Spike. And here we're getting a little bit spicy, a little flirty, having a little romance with a supernatural creature per se. So I think Spike encapsulates this vibe perfectly. Basically think supernatural hottie that you're kind of freaked out by but also want to kiss. Next up, one of my favorite categories, we have campy fun, which I think is best represented by Buffy herself because she is slaying all the time, yes, and she's also just a girl and girls just want to have fun. Now we're moving up into a little more serious Halloween territory with the moody and mysterious tier. This is best represented by Angel. In this tier, we are brooding. We're wearing trench coats, we're walking through the rain, we're maybe solving a mystery even. Finally, we have Mom, Come Get Me, I'm Scared. This tier is represented by Joyce, who is Buffy's mom. Not because she represents this tier itself per se, but because she is what you would want in terms of the kind of comfort after dealing with these games. The first game we have up here is Speed Dating for Ghosts. Branching dialogue, hard choices, a cemetery's worth of phantoms, wraiths, and poltergeists looking for love in all the blight places. Now this game I first played a couple years back before it had even been put on Steam, and it was just on itch.io. I'm so glad to see it's now on Steam too and more accessible to everyone because I adore this game. It's a little visual novel where you just go on dates with ghosts, and it is so adorable. The writing is so sweet and so fun, and it'll only take you a couple of hours to play, but I think it's perfect if you're looking for something short and sweet. Also, if you're someone who's really scared of ghosts like me, I think games like this are really nice because it just helps me feel better about the idea of ghosts. I don't believe in, I don't know how I feel about whether ghosts exist or not, okay? Listen, I like to think that if ghosts are real, that some of them are cute and nice, like the ones in this game, okay? So as you probably guessed, speed dating for ghosts is definitely going straight into our cute and whimsical category. Next up, we have The Wolf Among Us. The Wolf Among Us is a thriller based on the award-winning Fables comic books. As Bigby Wolf, you will discover that a brutal, bloody murder is just a taste of things to come in a game series where your every decision can have enormous consequences. This game is a masterpiece. If you love the idea of like the grim fairy tales, like darker spins on fairy tales, I think you will adore this game. And this is a narrative adventure game, so it's really just about clicking, making choices, and seeing what the consequences are. I think there might be some quick time events, but that's the extent of the gameplay. But y'all, the writing, the mood and atmosphere of this game, so well done. And I think the world is so interesting. It is based on the Fables comics, which I had no familiarity with, and I still adored this game. Also, if you like urban fantasy, because I think the premise of this game is that fairy tale creatures are in our world, I think you'll like The Wolf Among Us. It's also kind of like a detective game, so if you're just into that kind of narrative, then you'll really enjoy this. This game, I think, is a masterpiece, and I think it's really underrated in the cozy gaming space, maybe just because it's a bit of an older title, but I highly recommend, if it sounds interesting to you, that you check it out. And I almost forgot to mention, the other cool thing about The Wolf Among Us is that a sequel is currently in development. We don't really have much news. I think it's been pushed back a lot and delayed, but I'm so excited for the sequel, so if you want to get in on the first game so you can be ready for the sequel, highly recommend you do that. So of course, with all that said, I think it's obvious that The Wolf Among Us belongs in the moody and mysterious tier. Next we have Bayonetta 2. Wield wild weapons and execute deadly moves like the powerful Umbran Climax to take out angels and demons in this breathtaking action game. You can even team up with friends in 2-player online or local wireless co-op fights. This is the definition of camp in this tier list. You are playing as a witch, and you're just beating up these angels and demons in these really ostentatious displays that it's just so over the top. Bayonetta really like uses her whole body, including her hair, to toss enemies around. And I would say this is also great if you're just into the idea of like a female power fantasy, because that is what you'll be getting here. One of the reasons I find myself recommending Bayonetta a lot, even outside of Halloween recommendations, is because she is such a great example of a character that is not simply designed for the male gaze. If you look at her on the surface, it might seem that way, but I do think when you play the game, she is a character that really just owns her sexuality and is very much in control of it, which is such a breath of fresh air compared to other games where you encounter female characters being subjected to the male gaze, and it feels very like icky and weird and like this isn't for you, or at least it doesn't feel like it's for me. But anyway, I think Bayonetta is just a really cool character, so for that alone I would try it. Also, if you just love games that are action combat, this is a really fun game. It's not the kind of game that I play very often, but when I did play it, I just had so much fun with it. It was such a breath of fresh air, and it's just a stinking good time. It's also important to note that Bayonetta, her character design was also done by women, and I think that really shows in terms of just how Bayonetta is as a character, both visually and her personality. Like I said earlier, Bayonetta is camp. Next we have one of my favorite games. One of my favorite things of all time. It makes me want to cry just thinking about this game. I'm getting teary-eyed, but it is Life is Strange #1. Life is Strange is an award-winning and critically acclaimed episodic adventure game that allows the player to rewind time and affect the past, present, and future. This game is something special. The narrative, the way it is told to you, it's a narrative adventure game, and the main mechanics are, I mean, you're walking around and you're talking to people, but you also have the ability to rewind time as the protagonist, Max. And this game can get heavy. And the reason I put it on this list for Halloween games is there are some supernatural and mysterious elements. I'm not going to spoil anything, but there is like stuff going on in the game in various stories. You know, there's also lots of side stories in this game that I think evoke that sense of spookiness a little bit. But I wouldn't say this is a scary game at all. I do think it deals with some heavy subject matter, and it's a very emotional game. I would definitely look at the content and trigger warnings before getting into this game. Now, the writing in this game is beautiful in the content of it. I will say that probably some of the ways that the teens talk in that game will sound a little clunky to modern ears. I mean, even at the time, it was a little bit clunky. It kind of sounded like adults were writing teenagers, which they were. However, please don't let that discourage you from trying this game. It is literally one of the most impactful narratives that I've ever witnessed. Like, I'm literally getting emotional talking about it, and I'm not sure why. It's just one of those games, you know? Like, it's one of those games where the characters, even if I think about them now, like, they just mean so much to me. Max and Chloe will live in my mind forever. Also, this game has an incredible soundtrack. If you're into like sad, moody indie music, like incredible soundtrack as well. The other reason I highly recommend playing Life is Strange 1 sooner rather than later is because the sequel is actually coming out later this month. I literally can't wait. This Life is Strange also has a prequel called Before the Storm, which I highly recommend playing it as well. It's a really incredible prequel. And please don't confuse these games with Life is Strange 2 or Life is Strange 3, because those are all different games that tackle different characters and different stories entirely. But Life is Strange 1 is the one I'm talking about, and it is my all-time favorite out of that series so far. Life is Strange, of course, belongs in the moody and mysterious category. So I figure actually, I guess I'll reorder things in these tiers as we go along so that my favorite games in each category are represented at the start of the tier. But this is really hard because now I'm comparing like Life is Strange with The Wolf Among Us, and both of them are games I adore. But unfortunately, it's no question for me that Life is Strange wins. So I will be putting Life is Strange first. Next, changing up the mood a bit, we have When the Night Comes. When the Night Comes is a queer, narrative-driven, supernatural visual novel. And this is one of my favorite games. This is actually the game that made me want to make this video because I was thinking about underrated Halloween cozy games, and this game, I was like, I need to tell people about it. I played this game also back before it released on Steam, back when it was on itch. I might do a whole nother video on finding cozy games on itch because I feel like that's where you can really find some hidden gems. But I played this game several years ago and I was just so obsessed. There's multiple paths, so you can pursue dating all the different characters. It is a dating focused game. I love how diverse the characters are in terms of their race, in terms of their personalities, and also in terms of the types of relationships you can have. You can have monogamous relationships, but you can also have poly relationships in this game. I will say the only thing there is that there is only one female character that you can romance, I believe, unless they've added stuff since I played it. But I believe there's only Piper, whereas there's several male characters to romance, and also a non-binary character to romance, which I love, and they are actually my favorite. I think this game has a really good sense of atmosphere. Like, it's not scary, but it does feel very eerie at parts, and I love that. I think just the music and the visuals really contribute to that, and like the sense of intrigue because you don't really know what's going on. And I think the fact that this game had such a heavy plot is what really drew me in and got me obsessed, because not only was that keeping me moving forward, but there was also like the wooing of whatever character I was wooing during that playthrough. And I did play through this game multiple times so that I could pursue every single path with every single character, and I have no regrets. So if you've ever wanted to date a vampire like Buffy, or date a werewolf like Bella, or other supernatural creatures like witches, or other people involved in those areas of supernaturalness, I think this game is something you should play. Now, of course, this game is going in the pumpkin spice category. Next, we have Pentiment, which I played just a few short months ago. Step into a living illustrated world in a time where Europe is at a crossroads of great religious and political change. Walk in the footsteps of Andreas Mahler, a master artist who finds himself in the middle of murders, scandals, and intrigue in the Bavarian Alps. This is a gorgeous narrative adventure game by Obsidian, which you might know from their Fallout games. But this game is very, very different from Fallout. Since it's a story-driven game, you're basically just walking around the world, doing little tasks, talking to people, and trying to unravel kind of this building story that's like a murder mystery. And I feel like murder mysteries are very Halloween, which is why I feel like this game belongs on this list. And I think it's just also like some of the elements of the game and some of the things it hints at definitely make it feel a little spooky at times, but it's not a scary game. It's just a broody kind of game. The visual art style in this game is just absolutely stunning and unique, one of a kind. Like, it looks like old style art painted kind of visuals. I wish I had better words to describe this. I'm not an art historian, but also the text as well, like the fonts, they've been chosen so carefully, and like the sound effects, like everything is just absolutely so intentionally and beautifully put together that I think this whole game is like larger than the sums of its parts. And even though I will say like the story itself was really interesting to unravel, it didn't hit me personally very hard, but I have read reviews from other people where it did hit them pretty hard, and I think it really just depends on your upbringing and your relationship to certain things in life. Trying to be vague to not spoil anything, but I do think it's a very beautiful and thought-provoking game. I think the protagonist, Andreas Mailer, is very fun to play as, and you do have some control as to like who he ends up being and what his personality is, and you can like select certain traits for him to determine his background, which means this would also be a game that would be fun to replay. I haven't replayed it yet, but I'd definitely be down to replay it in the future, maybe after a couple of years after I forget everything again. I played this game in a total like frenzy, like I feel like I just devoured it over a few days. It like took over my life. It really was that kind of game for me, and I think that just speaks to how immersive the game is because of how intricately this world was put together. Pentiment is going with its moody and mysterious siblings. And I think for me, Pentiment does belong behind The Wolf Among Us. Next we have Afterparty. In Afterparty, you are Milo and Lola, recently deceased best buds who suddenly find themselves staring down an eternity in hell. But there's a loophole. Outring Satan, and he'll grant you re-entry to Earth. On the one hand, I'm obsessed with the concept of this game and the world that they created around it. I just think the concept is so fun. The idea of having to outring Satan in order to leave and go back to the living, I think is just hilarious. And I do think they execute on that very well for the most part. However, I think my expectations going in to play this game were really high because I was so excited about the concept and the world and the art that I was seeing, that I ended up finishing the game feeling a little bit like I wanted a little more. I wanted a little something. And I think what was lacking for me was just a little bit more of an interesting story to push everything forward. That said, I still think this is a fantastic game. If not, I would not have put this on the list. I think if the idea of this premise sounds interesting to you in any way, I would give this game a shot. I think it's a lot of fun, and I just don't really know many other games like it that tackle this subject matter in this way. I think this game has a really quirky, fun cast of characters that are really enjoyable to talk to. There's lots of just silly antics that you can get into while you're in the underworld that I think just are so fun to watch play out, that I still highly recommend this game. I would just say like it's not a 10 out of 10 game for me, but it's still a really, really good game. And I would say if you're someone who likes comedy in your games, this is a game that you definitely want to play. And if you like dark comedy, you would definitely enjoy the kind of humor that this game has. Afterparty is definitely some campy fun. Next, we have a game that will be the first on this list to go in the Mom, Come Get Me, I'm Scared category. This game is called Inside. Hunted and alone, a boy finds himself drawn into the center of a dark project. Inside is a dark, narrative-driven platformer combining intense action with challenging puzzles. It has been critically acclaimed for its moody art style, ambient soundtrack, and unsettling atmosphere. If you've heard of a game called Limbo before, Inside is made by the same developers, and this is a stunningly unsettling game. I probably would not have been able to play this game on my own, so the only way I was able to get through this game was because I played it with my partner and we took turns, and anytime things got too tense for me, I would just hand the controller over to him and let him deal with those sections. I wouldn't say Inside is a scary game in the sense of having lots of jump scares. Like, I don't think you're gonna be screaming. I think it just has a lot of tension, a lot of foreboding, and this tension just builds and builds as you're playing the game. And I think it builds really beautifully towards the ending, because I think about this game's ending a lot. The music in this game and the visuals are just absolutely stunning. For that alone, I think it's a high recommendation from me. It is a puzzle platformer, which personally is not the type of game that I'm best at, which is also why it was helpful for me to be able to pass the controller to someone else once in a while to play. So keep that in mind, depending on how you feel about puzzles and platformers. There are some in this game. I don't think there were any puzzles that were too difficult. I guess there's just some tense situations sometimes, so that tension plus having to use your brain to like solve a puzzle can sometimes feel like a lot. As I said, this game it's a scary game. It is the first one going at the very top here. Next we have Beacon Pines. Beacon Pines is a cute and creepy adventure set within a mysterious book. Sneak out late, make new friends, uncover hidden truths, and collect words that will change the course of fate. I think this game is just the perfect idea of being cozy in October. Like, it's a little creepy, but not really. It's mostly just like cute with a little bit of eerie undertones, like you're in a weird town vibes type of undertones. And it's like a storytelling type of game where you're literally like looking at words on a page, changing the word to play a scene differently. And that's like one of the main mechanics of the game. So it literally is just, I think, one of the coziest games you could play if you're in that kind of mood for just like a little bit of eeriness, not too much. I think what's also cool about this game is, you know, it has a branching narrative, but there is, from my memory at least, like a right way to play. So you'll hit endings sooner than you expected, and you'll have to go back and like hunt down the right words so that you can replace like the word in the book with one of the words you collected to change how the narrative goes. And so the scene will play out differently, and then you'll be able to advance further in the story. Just keep in mind though, like I said, there is, I think, a right way to get to the ending. So it's not like this game is branching in the sense that there are multiple endings to unlock. I believe there is a true correct ending, and you just kind of get to explore different aspects of the story as you get there. But it is essentially a linear path, which I think is fine. I think that's the kind of story this game was trying to tell, and I enjoyed it a lot. I enjoyed the characters, I enjoyed the art, and just like the cute little animal designs. I really like the contrast of that, having these cute animal characters and also having these eerie undertones. I think it's just a very fun contrast that I enjoyed a lot. Beacon Pines definitely falls in the moody and mysterious category. I think even though it has cutesy elements, it definitely feels more like other games in that category compared to like any of the categories below it. Next we have Monster Prom. You have 3 weeks to get a date for Monster Prom. Go through absurd and funny situations, raise your stats, and seduce one of your classmates. Beautiful art, bold, unapologetic dialogue, and hard choices make up this multiplayer, 1-to-4 players dating sim. Be your worst self. This game is a whole lot of silly fun. It's just a silly, goofy, fun time. I love that it is a multiplayer dating sim. I feel like there is not a lot of those. In fact, this is the only one I know that is a multiplayer dating sim. If you know of any other games like this, I would love to know. Please let me know in the comments. But I would love to see more in this little genre. And I have played this multiple times with my partner and with my sisters. And it's a game that's really fun to replay because every time something different will happen, you get to explore being different characters. You actually get to be the different characters in the game. And you also get to explore dating each of the characters, seeing if it'll work out. And I think what's really fun about this game is that you can fail, right? Like, that's kind of the point. Like, you can propose to like your ideal prom date and they can just be like, no, yuck. And I think that's hilarious. And I want more games to just be like that. I want more rude NPCs, you know? Like, it's fun. When it comes to the writing of this game, I think it's very flavorful, and it really has a strong sense of tone. I enjoy it, but I will say I think it might not be for everyone, but the great thing about this game is you can try its demo and see if it's for you before you buy it. When it comes to the characters, I think there is a nice variety. They are kind of like all stereotypes in a way, but they also kind of have their own thing going on, influenced by like what kind of creature they are, because one of them is a ghost, for example. One of them is like a demon boy. So they all have like their own stuff going on. And I think my favorite character from memory, I can't remember her name, but she's like pink and she's the princess, and she's just like very sweet and bubbly, but says like the most wild things. It's just wildly entitled and unhinged, and it's honestly hilarious. I think Monster Prom definitely belongs in pumpkin spice. It is a little bit campy, but in the end, it's very, very dating focused and very focused on the flirtation and the prom of it all. So I think it definitely belongs here. Next up, we have Oxenfree, and I'm specifically talking about Oxenfree number 1. It is a supernatural thriller about a group of friends who unwittingly open a ghostly rift. You are Alex, and you've just brought your new stepbrother, Jonas, to an overnight island party gone horribly wrong. This game I played a while ago, and I remember I played it in one of those frenzies again where I think I just like devoured it in the minimal amount of seatings that I could get away with. Oxenfree is actually a game by the same studio that made Afterparty that already appeared on this list. Oxenfree I feel like is quite different though from Afterparty, whereas Afterparty was kind of just like a goofy kind of game. I feel like Oxenfree is a lot more creepy. I feel like this isn't the case for everyone, but for me, I found it to be a scary game just because there were a lot of moments that made me very tense and very much anticipating something horrible happening, if that makes sense. In the end, after I finished the game, I don't feel like it's like such a scary game, but I feel like while I was playing it, I was very, very like on my toes, like had to turn some lights on at certain sections, just like was really feeling it. And I think that's because the game just has a beautiful sense of atmosphere. They do such a good job of building that tension. Also the writing is fantastic, and it really I really just enjoyed the conversations that I had in that game with the other characters. I feel like that really carried the game for me and made me want to know what was going to happen next and what was going to happen to the characters in the story. This game very much involves like uncovering mysteries, and it's an adventure game, so you're walking around and you're exploring the environment, having conversations. And what's cool is that your conversations too, I think, do determine like what happens to a small degree. I don't know how far it branches, but it definitely feels like the other characters react to the choices that you make in your dialogue, which I think really makes it feel more immersive. Also, this game has incredible voice acting, and I forgot to mention some of the other games, the previous games in this list, also have incredible voice acting, and I just checked now and I saw that a lot of the voice acting or voice actors that worked on The Wolf Among Us, for example, also worked on Oxenfree, which is not surprising to me, and I think that's really cool. I think the voice acting in both of these games is excellent. Oxenfree is going in Mom, Come Get Me, I'm Scared. I feel like this is where I'm kind of a weenie, because I feel like for some people Oxenfree is not that scary, but again, everyone's metric is different. There's something about games like Oxenfree where even though it's not realistic, that somehow sometimes freaks me out more. I'm not sure why. I feel like this might be surprising for some people because I do see Oxenfree is one of those games from my list that I do feel like I see people mention in the cozy gaming space. I do feel like this leans definitely more on the creepy side, and I find it very cozy, but it's definitely like up against the line of like, this is quite creepy and I can just about play this by myself. I think that's actually kind of a metric I use with a lot of these games is almost every game on this list, except for Inside, is a game that I played by myself. Actually, Inside is the only exception. So if a game is a game that I can play by myself, no matter like how creepy it is, I think at that point it's still something I can enjoy and be cozy. Inside still belongs on this list because I think I had a very cozy time playing it with my partner. But to be honest, I don't think I would have been able to play it by myself. And I think that is a mark of it potentially not being cozy for everyone. Now, between Inside and Oxenfree, I think I'm gonna have to put Oxenfree before. Now keep in mind, I'm putting Oxenfree first because I think I liked it a little more than Inside, but if we were talking about which one is scarier, I think maybe Inside was scarier. Next up, we're getting a little witchy again with Witchspring R. This is a story-driven RPG combining elements of collecting, simulation, and battling. Experience the joy of training a young witch and accompany her on a grand adventure. Now I'm cheating a little bit with this game. Every single game on this list I have played, but this is the only one that I haven't finished yet because I'm playing it right now. However, I'm about halfway through because I think the full game is only about 20-ish hours long. I'm at about the 10-hour mark and I already know that I love this game, so I wanted to tell y'all about it. I think it's been out for a while, but it only recently came to Switch, so I've been seeing a little buzz about it, but not as much as I would hope to see considering how fun this game is. If you're an Atelier fan, I think you would love Witchspring R, and I highly, highly recommend it. Like, go play it right now if you like Atelier. I've played Atelier Ryza 1 and Sophie 2 or whatever. Both of those games are some of my favorite cozy RPGs ever. I think they're the definition of a cozy RPG, but there are some aspects of those games that I don't like. For example, the fan service. And what I love about Witchspring R is, at least from what I've seen so far, there is none of that weird fan service. It's just all the cute witchy crafting vibes, and it's so fun. You explore, you gather ingredients, you craft different things, you have turn-based battles. You can also recruit pets, and then you can have your pets follow you around, and you can even ride on your pets. Like, one of the first pets you get is a little boar, and he's so cute. Also, the writing for this game and the story is surprisingly charming. It actually took me by surprise because I'm actually excited to see where things go. I'm really enjoying meeting new characters and talking to them, getting to know the different peoples in different areas. It's honestly such a joyful good time. If you need something wholesome and witchy in your life, I think you should just go play this game. Like, the art is lovely, it looks so cute, so beautiful. I think it's such an incredibly polished game too. There's so many little quality of life things that I think make this game just like a little better or a little less frustrating than some other games with similar systems in terms of its turn-based combat and its crafting and such. There's just like little things you can do to make things easier. Like, there's ways to automate what you craft every time you go home. There's like these training thing you can do with your character, but you can also like opt to like just do that automatically if you don't want to play through those mini games. I feel like it's very customizable in that way and up to you. The difficulty is also customizable, so you can make it really easy or really difficult depending on how much you want to focus on combat versus just laying back and enjoying the story and the world. Witchspring R is just so cute and so whimsical. I think I might have to put it before Speed Dating for Ghosts. Next, we have a certified classic, Night in the Woods. This is an adventure game focused on exploration, story, and character, featuring dozens of characters to meet and lots to do across a lush, vibrant world. Night in the Woods is a game that really takes me back to my senior year of college, because that's when it was released, back in 2017, and that's when I played it. And I was obsessed with this game. I absolutely loved it. I was so taken in by the world and the characters. I think the writing in this game is really incredible. The characters are really well done. I feel like I wanted to get to know every single one of them. I also feel like I'm just a huge fan of stories that are about like weird things happening in some strange remote small town, you know? So I think if you like stories like that, you would love Night in the Woods too, because that's what it's all about. There's a kind of mystery you're solving, but you're also just like chilling and chatting with your friends, learning more about yourself. You're playing as the main character, May, who's like this cat who I think is like maybe home with her family on break or something. I think this is definitely a game that I wonder if I would feel differently about it depending on what stage of life I'm in. I feel like I played it at a time where I could relate to the main character a lot, and so it really hit me, and I just felt like I was very, very connected to what was going on in the game. I have heard some people say that it doesn't really hit them, so, you know, it definitely depends. For me, this is one of my favorite games ever, and I really adore it. Definitely very moody and very mysterious. Next, for a game with a bit more of a bright and peppy color palette, we have bugsnax. Catch mysterious living snacks and feed them to your friends in this unusual island adventure. So bugsnax is a creature collecting game, and it is honestly one of the best creature collectors just in terms of how much attention to detail has been put into that mechanic alone. Like, you have all these different tools at your disposal to trap and capture these things called bugsnax, and they all look like adorable like mishmash variations of bugs with like snacks basically, and each of them has like this adorable sound effect, you know, like how Pokemon will like say their own name. The bugsnax do this too, and I think the voice acting for the bugsnax is incredible. The voice acting in this whole game is incredible for all the other characters as well. I want to be very clear here, like when I put this game on this list, it is not like an outright like horror, because I think some people, including me, when I looked at the art for this game and I read some reviews that kind of mentioned psychological horror, I got really worried that I wouldn't be able to enjoy this game, because I thought maybe it was going to be like a Five Nights at Freddy's type of deal where it was going to be like cutesy and fun on the surface but suddenly turn really dark. I don't think that's what this game is. However, this game does have some elements to it that could potentially make some people feel a little uncomfortable. if you want to know more, I would just look at the content warnings and decide for yourself. I will say that this was not a scary game for me in the slightest. I didn't find it scary at all. I did find it slightly disturbing in parts as I unraveled the mystery, but it was like disturbing in like a fun way. And that's why I think this game for me belongs in the campy fun category, because it's just campy fun. I loved bugsnax, so it's actually gonna move to the top of this category for me. Next we have Slay the Princess. You're here to slay the princess. Don't believe her lies. Now this game, like Inside, is a game that really I felt like I had to prepare myself for, and I don't know if I would have been able to play alone just based on what I first saw about it. And even after having played it, I do think it's a little too creepy for me to play by myself. I do think it's still a very cozy game though, and here's why. First, there's this narration and also the voice acting that is just done so incredibly well. This is like a interactive visual novel situation, so it feels very, very cozy to just curl up and play this game late at night in the fall, you know what I mean? I played this game late at night during the winter with my family. I played it with my siblings and my partner, and it was just so fun to progress through the game together and kind of decide choices together. So it's a very choice-based narrative. You make choices and the princess reacts to it. She's like the main other character in this game, so you're interacting with her a lot. And the building of that relationship between you, the narrator, the princess, it's so deliciously done. I don't really know how else to describe it. Like, it's just such a joy. I think this is such a feat of storytelling. I think the writing is so incredible, and the music and the voice acting and all supports it so perfectly. The art is absolutely incredible, just for the art alone, and for like kind of seeing all the different scenes that end up playing out. I don't want to get into spoilers, but all the different things you end up seeing and all the different strange entities you end up seeing, I think are so satisfying. I also think the story of this game is one that you could kind of interpret in different ways, and there's layers to it, and like there's the more straightforward layers, and also there's the layers on top that I'm sure people more eloquent than me have done like beautiful, thoughtful essays about just like what this game has to say about society and us. I really do think it's one of those kinds of games. It's brilliant, and this game absolutely goes in the mom come get me, I'm scared category. And it also definitely belongs at the first position of that category. We're approaching the end. Next we have the Cosmic Wheel Sisterhood. Immerse yourself in an enchanting narrative experience as Fortuna, a fortune teller witch condemned to exile on our asteroid home. Craft your own tarot deck, regain your freedom, and shape the fate of the Cosmic Witch Society. Okay, so if you love tarot cards like I do, I love tarot, I have several decks, I do frequent readings for myself just for fun, okay? And I think if you love tarot, you should go play this game immediately, because that alone is such a fun part of this game. There's a whole tarot mechanic. So you're playing as this witch, and you can create your own deck of cards and decide what symbols go on the card and where those symbols go. And the actual symbols you choose do influence the types of choices you're able to make in the future in dialogue and such, because you're able to like play those cards to influence like what kind of answers you have available essentially in different conversations. And it is just so freaking cool. I think the writing in this game is great. I really loved getting to know every single character in the cast. And I love the setup for the game. I love that you're like this witch in like the cosmos. And I think the story arc builds in a really satisfying way. This is really just a game that is absolutely stunning and incredible. I think I maybe played this in one sitting, which is wild because I think it's like 9 hours for a single playthrough, but I remember like kind of just playing it all in one day. I was really taken by it, and I think I would really love to go back and play it again. I have heard that playing different, like you can make different choices in different playthroughs, so it will affect the outcome. So I am curious to see like what other kind of endings I can get and what other kinds of things I can do in the game if I play it again. This game definitely belongs in the cute and whimsical category. It's not as cutesy cute as the other games here, but I do think it's just a very whimsical, like warm hug kind of game. And so I feel like if you don't want to be scared and you just want to cozy up with something witchy, this is the perfect game for you. Next up, we have a game that I'm sure absolutely none of you will have heard of. It's called Hades. Defy the god of the dead as you hack and slash out of the underworld in this roguelike dungeon crawler from the creators of Bastion, Transistor, and Pyre. Okay, I know like everyone has probably heard of Hades. It's like an indie darling. And Hades 2 is also in development right now. I've heard very, very good things. I'm not someone who likes to like look at games early, so I'm just waiting for it to be fully released, but I am sure it's going to be incredible. But in the meanwhile, we have the first Hades, and the first Hades is a absolutely phenomenal game. Even if roguelites aren't usually your thing, I highly encourage you to still give Hades a try if you are interested by some of the other things that the game has to offer. So the game has like the combat section where you're going through different rooms of like a dungeon essentially, and that's the roguelike part because you can keep dying and like having to restart again. However, I think that game loop of restarting is so satisfying because the reward you get every time you die is that you get to go back down to the underworld and talk to all the other characters there that are phenomenally voice acted. The writing is incredible, and it just feels like nice to die in this game, which I think is a wonderful feat to accomplish. This game also, I believe, has ways to scale the difficulty. Like, I think there are things you can do or ways you can power yourself up to make the game a lot easier. So even if you're someone who doesn't really like to deal with too much combat difficulty in a game, I do think you can get through it. I played this game for I think like a little over 20 hours. I think some people play it for way longer, but I basically just played it till I got what I heard at the time was the true ending, and I also stuck around for a little bit longer to develop the relationships with the characters. That's another huge selling point to this game, is that the characters are written so well and you can actually develop relationships with them. There's one particular character that I love in this game that only shows up sometimes, so it's kind of hard to like encounter him, and there's kind of like a vibe between him and your character, and it's just so fun. I can't remember his name, but as you can probably tell by how excited I'm getting talking about this game, it is just fantastic. It's so much fun. This game belongs on this list because, you know, you're literally in the underworld, like you're battling to get out of the underworld during the game. You're playing as Zagreus, who's like the prince of the underworld, and your dad's there and he's all grumpy. And there's like Cerberus, the dog with 3 heads, who's beautiful and you can pet him. I mean, what more could you ask for? This is a game for my Greek mythology fans, so if you love mythology of any kind, or specifically Greek mythology, this game is sitting here waiting for you. I think the character design in this game is also just stunningly done. I mean, just look up some of the art. I think the gods and goddesses are rendered so wonderfully, so beautifully, so incredibly. Yeah, just go play this game. Now, Hades is not a scary game at all. It's just a game with fun themes that make it Halloween coded, which is why I'd put it in the can't be fun category. The second to last game on this list is a little different from the others. It's called I Promise. The long road looms. Walk as the sun still blooms in the sky, a silent stroll, eternal, unmarked. Walk past midnight, before dawn, the trees tremble, and an unearthly serenade stutters to life. In place of the sun, a cosmic being, it beckons. So this game is a game that was made by my partner because he's a game developer. So I have some behind the scenes knowledge of this game as it was in development. It's since been released. I did a little writing for this game. There isn't really much writing in the game. I think it was just for the store page that I did the writing. This is a really short and sweet game that is on itch.io, so it's not on Steam, but you can play it if you have a PC. And it has a absolutely gorgeous sense of atmosphere. The music, the sound is done incredibly well, and the visuals are really intriguing. This game also kind of has a little secret to it that I won't tell you, but I think there's hints on the store page description if you're curious. So the game actually plays out different ways depending on when you play the game, as in when you launch it in real time. This game isn't a scary game. I do think there's parts of it that could feel scary because of sudden sounds that happen, but there's no jump scares other than that, just as long as your volume's not too high. And I actually find it to be an extremely cozy game. It's actually something that makes me feel very cozy, especially when you play through the ending. I will be putting I Promise right behind Life is Strange. Of course, I'm biased, but I do think I Promise is like a gorgeous little snack of a game that I think is great if you just want something to play for a couple minutes and feel like you experienced something. Next, we have our final game on the list, which is my top overall recommendation for you to play during Halloween as a cozy gamer, and that is The Walking Dead by Telltale. The Walking Dead is a 5-part game series set in the same universe as Robert Kirkman's award-winning comic book series. Play as Lee Everett, a convicted criminal who has been given a second chance at life in a world devastated by the undead. With corpses returning to life and survivors stopping at nothing to maintain their own safety, protecting an orphaned girl named Clementine may offer him redemption in a world gone to hell. You do not have to have read the Walking Dead comics or watched the show or anything like that to enjoy this game. I had not engaged with any other Walking Dead content before I played this game. But this game is one of the very few games, like I think 1 out of 2 or 3 games that I can remember that has made me like sob like a baby. So when I say this game is horrifying, like, okay, there's the zombies, and if zombies scare you, then I guess that could be a scary aspect for you. Personally, I would say that zombies don't really freak me out, and I don't think these zombies in this game are anywhere near as scary as like the clickers in The Last of Us or something. Like, they're not on that level. Obviously there's the body horror inherent to zombies and their decomposing bodies, but I don't think this game is scary in that way. I think it's scary in a much more gritty and real way. I think a lot of time the tension is coming from either the consequences of what could happen to your character or what could happen to the other characters that you care about. So there's just a lot of tense situations. This is like a narrative adventure game, so you're making choices, you're walking around, you're playing through a story. There's no combat per se, but I think there are like quick time events and stuff where you do have to like kind of wrestle with zombies and such, you know, like there's physical actions you take, but it's all just like a press of a button. I think this game is an absolute classic, and I feel like the only reason it's not talked about as much currently, as far as I can see, in terms of cozy horror game sphere, is that it's old. So this game I think was released in 2012, or maybe the first or last episode was released then. I don't know. It's episodic, so they released the episodes. Now they're all out and available for you to play. There's 5 episodes, I think. I highly recommend playing through all of them. I played this when I was in college, and I remember there was one part where I was just sobbing on the couch, like sobbing so badly that my roommates thought something horrible had happened in my life, and I was like, no, nothing happened to me. I'm crying about this video game. But it really is an emotionally devastating game, so I will say maybe go in prepared for that. If you're someone who loves to be emotionally devastated by fictional characters, I think this will be your jam. For all of the people I see discussing, you know, I was a teenage exocolonist, for example. I haven't played that game yet. I haven't on my backlog. But from the way I hear people describing that game, which I think is quite well known in cozy spaces, I would say like you should play The Walking Dead right now, because I feel like in a similar way, it really makes you forge these like close connections with the characters in the game. And there's a lot of heartache, a lot of tragedy. I mean, this is a post-apocalyptic world. There are zombies afoot, but it is truly one of my favorite narrative games of all time. So this game is definitely going in the mom come get me, I'm scared tier, but not just because of the horror elements. Actually, I don't think it's that horrifying on like a jump scare type level, but I'm really putting it in that category because I think it's just horrific in how much it devastates you and your emotions. Like, it's just emotionally horrifying at times. I was leaving The Walking Dead for last because I think that is my top recommendation to you, especially because I feel like it's kind of fallen out of discussion because it's an older game, but I feel like just because a game is old doesn't mean it's not super incredible good. And I feel like we have the tendency, because I do it too, where we overly focus on what's new and what's coming out now, and forget that there's just so many gems from the past that, especially if you only got into gaming recently, or maybe you've only started exploring different genres recently, you might have missed out on all these older classics. So The Walking Dead is my top overall recommendation, and is also my top recommendation if you are looking for games in the mom come get me I'm scared category. As for the other categories, I'll just go through and like highlight who were the winners. If you're looking for something moody and mysterious, Life is Strange 1 is my top recommendation for you. And if you're looking for some campy fun, I think you should play Bugsnax. If you're looking for some pumpkin spice to spice up your life, I cannot recommend When the Night Comes highly enough. And if you're just looking for something cute and relaxing and whimsical that just has some witchy, Halloweeny elements, then you should go play the Cosmic Wheel Sisterhood. Thank you so much for watching. If you think I missed any games that belong in a list like this, please let me know in the comments because I would love to see what other games I should be playing around this time of year. And if you like what you saw here, feel free to like and subscribe and all that. I would really appreciate it. I really appreciate all of you who have been engaging so far. It's been so much fun and I have so many more ideas for the kinds of videos I want to make in the future. So stay tuned and I'll see you next time. Bye bye.